Diddy was put into solitary confinement on the 23rd of July, 2026, and that is where his situation currently sits. Here is what happened, or at least what everybody is saying happened, because the prison will not confirm a single word of it. Another inmate at FCI Fort Dix said something to him. Something went down between the two of them, and Diddy got pulled out and dropped straight into the hole. The word going around is that he could be in there for up to 30 days. Fort Dix has been extremely clear that they are not discussing it, telling anybody who asks that they are not at liberty to disclose internal information about any inmate in their custody. The Bureau of Prisons said the same, that it does not discuss whether an inmate is the subject of allegations, investigations, or sanctions. So officially, nothing happened. Unofficially, the man who threw the biggest parties in music history is now sitting alone in a segregation cell in New Jersey at 56 years old. And there is a far more dramatic version of this circulating online that nobody has verified. I am not repeating that one. Diddy got caught fermenting Fanta, sugar, and apples inside his cell, which is genuinely the most creative thing I have heard all year. This was November 2025, barely a few weeks after he arrived at Fort Dix from Brooklyn. Fizzy orange soda, apples, sugar. A man who once owned half of a tequila brand worth $200 million, sitting in New Jersey, running a fermentation operation out of vending machine supplies. And that was not the only thing flagged that month. There was also a three-way phone call he was not supposed to be on, made just days after he got there. His team pushed back on that one immediately, saying it came from his attorney and was privileged, so nothing improper had taken place. But here is the part that actually mattered. His projected release date moved. Pushed back by roughly a month, which tells you somebody took it seriously enough to act, even with no official announcement. And it set the pattern for everything since. Small stuff, unconfirmed stuff, total silence, and then quietly, the date on his file changes. Diddy has had his release date changed 5 separate times since sentencing, and the direction it keeps moving tells you plenty. Original projection was the 8th of May 2028. Then, after that November 2025 situation, it got pushed out to the 4th of June 2028. Then it came forward to the 25th of April 2028. Then the 15th of April 2028, and as of June 2026, it sits at the 23rd of February 2028. So he has clawed back a few months overall, mainly because he enrolled in the residential recovery program at Fort Dix, which can take up to a year off. He has also been getting credit for time served going all the way back to September 2024. The Bureau of Prisons will not explain any of it. They just say the dates reflect their own calculations and leave it there. So you have a man whose freedom is being quietly recalculated every few months by people who will not tell him or anybody else why. The original figure was 50 months, plus a $500,000 fine and 5 years of supervised release. Judge Arun Subramanian handed that down on the 3rd of October 2025. Diddy sat through a 2-hour appeal hearing on the 9th of April 2026 and has heard absolutely nothing since. That is nearly 4 months of silence. His team went to the Second Circuit in December 2025, asking for it to be expedited, and 3 judges heard it in April. His appellate lawyer, Alexandra Shapiro, argued that the 50-month figure leaned on conduct the jury had actually rejected, which is a serious argument and not a last-ditch swing. And the response from the bench was the interesting bit. Judge William Nardini called it an exceptionally difficult case and said it raised a question of first impression, not just for that court, but apparently for any federal appeals court in the country. Translation: nobody has ever had to rule on this exact thing before, which is thrilling if you are a law professor, and absolutely agonizing if you are the one in the cell waiting on it. There is still no ruling, and whichever way it lands, either side can push it up to the Supreme Court, which adds months more. Donald Trump left Diddy off the pardon list on the 3rd of July 2026, and that one clearly stung. Here's the history. Diddy wrote to him asking for a pardon, and Donald Trump confirmed that letter himself in a January 2026 interview, while making clear he was not considering it at the time.
I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
Then, in early July, the word started going around that he was privately weighing it again as part of a broader batch. Everybody watched. And when the list came out on the 3rd of July, it was 6 people, all of them emissions cases under the Clean Air Act. That is it. No Diddy. A White House official said the president is the ultimate decider on any clemency-related actions, which is the kind of sentence that means everything and nothing at the same time. Nothing has been announced either way since. He has not been refused, and he has not been granted. Meanwhile, the word from inside Fort Dix is that Diddy has been telling other inmates a pardon is coming. That is his claim, nobody else's promise. And 20 days later, he was in solitary. Diddy sold his Star Island mansion for $55 million on the 14th of July 2026, while sitting inside a prison in New Jersey. And that sale is the clearest picture yet of where the empire actually stands. He bought that place from Gloria and Emilio Estefan for $35 million in 2021, nearly 8,000 square feet, right on the water, sold to a company out of Virginia. And that is just the property. His partnership with Diageo concluded in a January 2024 settlement that handed him $200 million for his half of De Leon, and they now own the whole thing outright. He offloaded the last of his Revolt stake in June 2024. Sean John, the clothing line that made him a household name in the 90s, is effectively finished. His Holmby Hills place in Los Angeles went up at $61.5 million and then got quietly pulled. And Howard University revoked the honorary degree they gave him in 2014, handed back his negative $16 million donation, and shut down the scholarship carrying his name. Every single pillar gone. Diddy teaches a business course inside Fort Dix called Free Game with Diddy, and honestly, that detail says more than anything else in this entire story. It runs 6 weeks and covers business management, entrepreneurship, and personal development. He started it back in Brooklyn and carried it with him when he transferred. He also works in the chapel library as a chaplain's assistant. And his publicist has described that environment as warm, respectful, and rewarding. He has told the court he got sober for the first time in 25 years while inside. And there is a photograph from the 23rd of November 2025 where his hair and beard have gone completely gray, to the point that people described him as nearly unrecognizable. So here is where all of this lands. 56 years old, 4,000 men in that facility, a February 2028 date that will not stop moving, an appeal nobody has ruled on, a pardon nobody has granted, and a man teaching other people how to build a business from inside the place where his own one finished. Diddy's own legal team asked for Fort Dix. That is the part that makes this whole year so much funnier. His attorney, Tenny Garagos, wrote to Judge Arun Subramanian on the 6th of October 2025, days after sentencing, requesting that exact facility so he could enroll in the residential recovery program and be closer to his family. They campaigned for it. They got it. He transferred out of the detention center in Brooklyn later that month, where he had been sitting since September 2024, and walked into a low-security prison in New Jersey, holding somewhere around 4,000 men. And then, in order, fermented soda in November, a phone call he was not supposed to be on, a release date that started moving in the wrong direction, then July, and segregation. So the place he specifically requested, the one meant to be the softer landing, the one that was supposed to shave a year off his sentence, has produced more incidents in 9 months than the previous 13 months in Brooklyn ever did. Be careful what you file a letter asking for.